Hi, I'm Marty Grisani, and this is The Marty Grisani Show. As a full-time real estate investor and business owner, I have a real fascination of finding the key principles for business success and personal development. This show is a reflection of my personal mission to find out what truly makes somebody successful in business and in life. We will find tools and tactics that they've used to reach those levels. If you're the type of person who is not satisfied with average and you have a hunger for learning that will never cease, this show is for you. Welcome to the show. It's kind of funny. I don't know, like your day to day, like what that looks like. Because it's the same thing with me. I'm sure people are like, well, what do you even do?
Sometimes I don't even know my day to day. I like to try to time block as much as possible, but obviously things come up, and whether you're getting calls from a tenant or calls from clients, and you just kind of roll with the punches. And that's been tough to adjust to, just starting with like real estate sales stuff, but I'm finally getting the hang of it. But I have a pretty strict routine in the morning. From sometimes I'm up at 5, but most of the other times I'm up at 6:37. I like to get my emails done in the morning. Get that. I don't like writing emails, so I like to get that done first part of the day. And then usually I'll get some coffee, breakfast, and then kind of start my day. But before 7, I like to try to mix in a workout.
I like that.
Sometimes I don't. I'm a 3 times a week guy right now, but sometimes I just get up in the morning and I'm feeling a little tired, so I like to lay around in bed a little bit.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need it.
Well, because we have kind of crazy schedules. And so for those who are listening right now, this is the Marty Grisani Show, and I have a very special guest, and we're going to get into a little bit on who he is, and I want to have him introduce himself in just a moment. But, right now we're just chopping up, talking about our morning routines, really, because they are important. But also when you are working for yourself, like Phil was saying earlier, you got to be a bit of I wouldn't say a slave to your calendar, but you got to be on top of your calendar a bit, because if you're not, you can let your day get away. I also agree with you. I think it is good to kind of take some time, especially because we're always working, right? Like if you're constantly thinking about work, or you're constantly, like as we are, you get paid for what you eat what you kill, essentially.
Right.
You kind of have to take some time, this was the biggest adjustment for me, was being okay with that, because it helps you long term. It actually inspires you to go after it even harder, because if you're just constantly in it, right? I think it's very tough. You were saying a little bit about your morning routine and your workouts. Like, is that, for me, I need to get my workout in at least 3 to 4 days a week. Do you think that helps at all with your mindset, or like you're just like you're feeling amped upness to get the day going, or do you already just have that drive inside of you? Guys, and before you answer that, this guy was drafted 52nd overall in the 2010 NHL draft. So this dude's a freaking horse. He's a worker. He's a guy. He's a 10-year, professional hockey player. All right. I mean, he's also, and this is probably the toughest thing to do, he's on the Rochester All Handsome team. Look at this guy. He's a great looking dude.
Where did you see that stat?
It's my own personal stat. All right. We keep it lock and key, he's a professional real estate agent. He's an investor, and I'm happy to have him on here. But, and Phil, before you go into a little bit about, who you are and what you do, I really want to get in on this part, on this mindset thing, because I was thinking about it. 10 years. Can you explain the grind that must be of being in the professional hockey league for 10 years? Like, just give people an idea of what that looked like. Because I think it's going to help us understand.
Well, I think you just said it, Marty. It was a grind.
Yeah.
And I'm never made it to the NHL, played preseason games, but it was all minor league stuff. And I think the exact word for it is it was a grind, just like anything. I mean, what you do, you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, that's a grind also. But not only is it a grind day to day, it's like it's a mental battle that you deal with, and physical. It really, after 10 years, it really took, it takes a toll on you. And it almost, now I'm 2 years out and I haven't really touched a hockey stick or skates in 2 years, where just kind of got a reset from the game that I loved, and, kind of fall back in love with it again, to the point where, I wasn't watching any hockey games. And that's why maybe I kind of, lost a little bit of love for the game, just because it was so much of a grind. I lived in different states every year. I traveled every weekend. I was on the ice 6 times a week, 1 day off, and it's physically intensive stuff. And, my days aren't 9 to 5, but they're, our schedule was from, you're up at 8, you're at the rink till 1, and you kind of had the rest of the day, but it's still, physically and mentally demanding. But I was very fortunate enough to do it for, 10 years. I didn't reach my goal of making the NHL, but I was, I enjoyed every minute of it. I got to travel. I got to see a lot of things. And in the meantime, I was fortunate enough to invest in real estate.
Yeah, I think that's, and I don't want to just gloss over the history, because I think there's a lot there where it kind of tells the person of who you are. Like, I believe like all of that, like the character building of, you go from getting drafted, right? I mean, what a moment that must have been, right? For you and your family, just that whole thing. And so I give you guys so much credit, because I look at the guys that you reach this level of getting drafted. I mean, that's one thing they can't take away, Phil, right? That's one thing they can't take away. Out of everyone in the United States, or I'm sorry, out of everyone in the world in that time, you were, in someone's eyes, the 52nd best player in the world. I think that's fucking amazing, personally. But then, as that peak and valley of most lives, right? Like you said, not quite getting to where you wanted to be in making into that, into the NHL and playing there. How does somebody, because some people, that's going to kill them. I really believe that. I really believe that could end a lot of people. Just, that's it. They're done, right? If they don't hit that level. But you were able to kind of, with the character building of not getting that. Was that just something where you were like, hey, that's the way it is? Was it something where it was obviously a punch in the face? But how does some people take that and rise like you did to get through it? And then some people, they're just stuck there, and then, woe is me, their life is over. I mean, have you ever thought about that?
Not in depth, but I mean, that's a really good question. But I mean, it's probably a little bit, it's a lot like entrepreneurship, with the peaks and valleys, like you were saying. But, there's within a hockey season, you run into a lot of lulls, ups and downs, wins and losses, highs and lows, injury issues. I mean, you're competing every day with your teammates, your friends, and it's a constant grind daily. And it's something you kind of, you learn to adjust to and deal with, but you also have to overcome a ton of adversity. And, you can either curl up in a ball and die, or, kind of try to fight through it. So, and I'm not a person to give up or quit on myself, but, there's times where it's definitely crossed my mind where I just say, screw this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was doing it for the love. Like I enjoyed the life. I enjoyed meeting, 30 something new people a year, becoming friends with them, playing the sport you love for a living. And, there's not much you can really complain about. I think back now and feel, I didn't make my goal, I may have failed at that, but I was very fortunate for the life I had. And now it's kind of starting over at 30 years old. I got a couple of rental properties and, I'm just trying to navigate the entrepreneurial lifestyle between real estate sales and being a landlord, dealing with a lot of stuff the past year and a half. Like, I mean, we're learning daily, like something new is thrown at your face week by week. And I kind of love it, to be honest with you. It's not the same sit behind a desk, it's challenging, but it's a new challenge daily. And I think it makes me better as a person. I don't know.
Love it.
Anybody else.
I love it. I think you just explained why you were able to overcome, because you're grateful. You were grateful for the moment. And although I'm sure there were moments where, like you said, you had some real tough times, at the same time, that those thoughts of like giving up, they're not going to serve you, right? Like that's not going to serve you at all, right? And just those thoughts could be just like, it's not just a physical game, right? I think people kind of lose the fact that NHL is probably one of the toughest physical games, but it's also that mental game of being in the professional league with like the politics, and then you have all these different moments where you think you're going to be going one way and then it's another way, and then you go left and there's right, and there's the business side, right? So there's all these different aspects of it, which that part is probably tougher, truthfully, because it's such a confidence either crusher or confidence builder. And right. And here's the thing. I think those things are serving you to be where you are now, because in real estate, especially in realtor and that retail and commercial real estate environment, it is something where people can't handle that. People can't handle the repeated punches to the face. And guys, by the way, we are in the hottest market in the United States history of real estate, right? So you have to be the type of person. It doesn't mean you have to be an NHL hockey player, but you have to be you have to be a type of person that can kind of withstand that storm. I mean, do you see? And because I want to ask you this question about your properties and being an investor, but I do you see similarities with being in a competitive sport environment and also being in a competitive real estate environment?
I mean, 100%. I jumped into real estate sales, I think right in the middle of COVID. And, it's COVID, not much going on. And like you said, the real estate market is booming. And I'm jumped right in. Maybe I don't know what's really going on, but I mean, it's competitive as hell. And it definitely, to answer your question, it definitely does correlate a lot, like those small wins, whether you get listings, whether you get your buyer a home, just repetitively calling people to just even chat, to strum up new business, and it was all a learning experience for me, because I don't have any sales background. I'm learning daily, and that competitiveness in the real estate market kind of kept the flame lit inside from the hockey stuff. And I love it. And that's, I love it, but I hate it too, because it could suck,
Yeah.
And it has like its ups and downs, and it's everything correlates between between hockey and the real estate, I think. And it's
Mm.
all relative with each other.
I like that. I think that's true. Not that I played hockey, but I just know the competitive, world that I'm in. And then also it translates over to, being in sports. I think having a good team, I'm lucky to have my partner, Matt, is also helpful. I know you've told me in previous conversations that your team that you're a part of has been really helpful for you. And right. And so, you know, that transition, was that a big part of that? Was your team helping you kind of transition into that role as a realtor? And what did that look like as you started kind of learning those roles and especially with the listing side and then also helping out with buyers, because that's got to be another thing that you have to that roller coaster of emotions for the buyer as well. But you're kind of, if, as someone that's used to not getting, their way, so to speak, because I know I don't always get my way when when I'm trying to buy something, right? Or I don't necessarily always get to sell the thing that I'm looking to sell, right? But for people who've not in that sort of environment, when this has got to be new to them, how do you kind of walk buyers through? Are you able to do that a little bit better than you think than other people, because you've been like, hey, you can kind of just take a couple breaths and give that sense of calm to buyers? Do you think you're able to do that for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of my job. I think, in this market, I try to prep my buyers when especially if they're first time home buyers, what they're actually coming into, what the market's like here, what to expect. We could write one offer and get it accepted, get really lucky, or we're going to have to write 14, but you can't, you just can't get discouraged. And I just basically got to prepare them for it, because I've had buyers that, had, call it buyer fatigue, where we're running around to 3-4 houses a weekend. You're driving from Victor to Greece, to Henrietta, to Webster, and they just like, oh, I'm tired. They get tired, and it's tough. It's kind of defeating, but being in that up and down lifestyle, really for my whole life, from hockey now into real estate, like I like to think that I can, kind of keep my emotions, or try to keep my emotions as even keel as possible. Not because when you get the really big, like depressed or upset, is when you get the really big highs and the really low lows, which I found when I was playing. So, if you can learn to roll with the punches and keep grinding, like you said, and, I'm a firm believer everything will work out.
Yeah, I think that's the way you have to kind of approach it. And I actually appreciate it a lot more now as someone that's on the buyer side. And, obviously I'm coming from a different side because I'm super jaded. I'm a real estate investor. So I just can't quite, get myself to overpay for something when I'm constantly used to not underpaying, but just paying what I know is the number I need to be at. Right.
Right.
And so I know how tough that is for my agent to really, walk me through this. I will say the one thing that I think is really nice, and tell me if this is something that you're doing for those clients that have that fatigue, because I'm having that fatigue, is they don't give up. And I know that might be salesy in a way for some agents. They think like that's I know they're not quite, maybe they've just had so many heartbreaks, but to consistently send listings has got to be tough as an agent. But also, I think deep down you have to know, I know they need something, and I'm the person that's going to be the one that delivers it, because I've seen testimonials, Phil, where they go, they didn't give up. And now it all makes sense. Where the client goes, they didn't give up, even though I did. I think that's so important. Like, have you experienced anything like that? Or have you had any clients that were just like maybe on the dumps and you were just like, hey, we got one more to go. We got, we can do this. And then you kind of get them over that hump and they've just loved you for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically why I think you hire a real estate agent, right? A, for their expertise, and B, it's just another person, third party that's you can lean on, whether it's for advice or motivation to go look at stuff, even more stuff after your 10th offer, after writing offers 30, 40, 50 over and still losing, I mean, there's points where like I'm tired and my buyers just want to go see stuff, and you have to throw in the smile and show them the house. Exactly. And go into it with a good attitude and hope for the best. I'm a big juju guy, I call it. So all about good juju. So I had a client that wrote an offer the other day, and it was a beautiful house. He didn't think they were going to get it. He thought it was going to go for like 100 plus over. And I, kind of talked them off the ledge, and they loved the house, end up writing the offer, and we end up being one of the top 2 offers.
Wow.
And we end up getting the house. So
that's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, at the end of the game in this market, it is a numbers game, but you can't quit. You got to be there for your client and keep showing them the house, keep being there for them, keep positive, and, do your job, basically.
Yeah. Do your job. I give so much credit because it is, it's a consistency game, right? It's a numbers game, but it's a consistent numbers game. And I think people may lose sight of that, of people, that are unfamiliar, especially people who go, do I really need a realtor? I was one of those people, when I first started. I was like, realtors, I'm not really sure, what do they really do? And the longer I've been in the game, the more I realize just how important a realtor is and how it's absolutely necessary, right? So for me as a buyer or for me as a seller, it's a no-brainer to use a realtor, truthfully. And even if you are one yourself, you may want to give that rein up to somebody else to come at it with maybe a different set of eyes and maybe not so much attachment, so to speak, on different things. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I've been thinking about just when because I took my license just to really understand why why realtors are, get paid for what they do. And now I believe it 100%. When you first approached it, where you're like, I'm not sure really what I'm going to do. Like, what do realtors do? And then like, how has that evolved to like what you do now? Like, is it completely different? Is it what you expected? Is it not what you expected? I'm just curious on your point with that.
I kind of had that mentality 8-something years ago when I first started, when I bought 8-9 years ago, when I bought my first 2 investments. It was like transactions went smooth. I was like, what am I paying this guy 3% for? I mean, what did he do?
Right.
And then, as you buy more, you run into more issues. And then especially now being into it, in the middle of it, we as realtors are 100% needed. You're going to have that smooth transaction, but you're also going to have a terrible transaction, and you need that mediator, or you're going to go crazy. If you don't know what's going on, your brain will spin in a million different directions, and you might not know how to handle it. Where a realtor with experience, or somebody who has a team to lean on that has tons of experience, or to bounce ideas off of, their worth is all of that 3%.
I agree.
But I was the same way as you were. 3%. Well, I want to save that 6-8 grand. I want that in my pocket, but, and it's also, I think we've talked about this too, is you can know how to do everything, but you can't do everything yourself.
Right.
You have to outsource. You have to hire people. You have to have good teams. You have to have people you trust, reliable people, and to keep yourself sane,
Right.
And now doing this full time, I have that constant battle of who do I hire? What do I hire out? I got to focus on this. I hire out managing my rental properties,
Right.
you can't be in a million different places at once. And then if you are, you're not, how focused can you really be on the task at hand?
That's so good. That's so good, guys. Go back and re-listen to that because that is so true. I mean, what I'm taking from that is it's a freaking team sport. It really is. It still is a team sport, and you got to rely on other people. Where you're going to, can you do it all? Sure, but it's going to be sloppy. It's not going to be as good, and you're going to get burned out. And that's the stuff that ends a career. It's upstairs. It's in your head. You gotta be willing to work with others and you'll go way farther, way farther. Let's actually talk about those two deals actually, because I wanted to hear a little bit about your experience. So let's go back to maybe it was the first one or the second, whatever one you want to talk about. But what was the story behind that?
So 8-9 years ago, it was the summer I got drafted. I got a bonus check and I was just like, I got to invest this in something.
How bad did you want to blow it though a little bit?
I'm 20 years old and I get a good chunk of change.
Real estate at 20 years old, it's like, I guess, but good thing you had a good supporting cast.
Yeah, I had a good support system. My parents were great teachers for me. And my dad ended up actually being a partner of mine on the deal going in with me because he had a rental in the house that we grew up in actually. And he was a ton of help, showed me the ropes, showed me how to do things, and ended up buying a single family home where I had the intentions of living in it for the summer and then going to play hockey. But bought the house, did some renovating to it, never ended up living in it, and then been renting it out for the past 9 years. Never even lived in it once.
Love it.
And then I kind of just rinse and repeated that for the past 9 years. Come home, live into a rental, leave for the season, rent it out again.
Mm.
And I was able to accumulate, about 12 units over the time. Sold a few off now. But I just kind of got into a flow of, I always loved real estate. I loved that it was tangible. If something went wrong, I'm very hands-on, handsy. I can fix it myself, have the contacts through my dad's in the construction. So was able to get stuff done and fairly cheap and do it myself. But obviously as you accumulate more, you have to start hiring out. You can't be fixing things here, doing landscaping there, mowing this lawn, mowing that lawn. So I learned that hiring a good team, hiring people that are reliable is probably the number one thing to being successful.
That's incredible that during your career, you were able to still play, but obviously then focus on some of the stuff that's, hey, I'm not going to be able to play forever, no matter what, right? No matter how this thing goes. And you're able to, in that time, still collect over 12 units. It's insane, really, thinking about that because you're still managing these things kind of from afar. I mean, obviously you have some people at home that you can depend on a bit, but still, I think that's some crazy foresight to put money out there and to invest. And I know that you actually just recently did a fix and flip not
Yep.
too long ago. Can you tell
Yep.
people kind of how you found it, what you did? Because I'd like to hear that, a little bit of the numbers there on how that all worked out, because people can still fix and flip in this market.
Yeah. I mean, um, honestly, it's my fix and flips was just word of mouth. Family friend knew that I was an investor. I might be able to buy a property that had an off market or pocket listing that had potential. Lady was, outdated carpets, crazy pink colors, red colors, all the retro colors that you had in the older homes.
Yeah.
And, walk through it and look at the house. Nothing serious was wrong with it. It was actually in pretty good shape, good bones, what you like to say. You like to see a house that has good bones.
Good bones.
Probably one of the most common phrases in the
Yeah.
real estate
It's like,
industry.
are you sure they're good bones? Do you really even know? And they're like, well, I mean, I think it's good bones. Yeah.
They look like it until you start ripping walls down.
Exactly.
But then you run your comps in the neighborhood, figure out how much needs to go into it, and then run how much profit I wanted to make, rehab costs, and try to get it done in a diligent manner, because time is the number one thing, in my opinion. And that was my first one. I dabbled in a little bit of everything, long-term holds, fix and flips. I have an Airbnb, getting into commercial stuff now, but I'm just learning as I go.
Yeah. It's inspiring to see, it's just what I love about it is, local guy, great pro career, come back, and now you start with your own professional real estate career. And I know we've had some talks about commercial. I mean, where would you like to see this thing go in maybe 2, 3, 5 years? Have you kind of thought a little bit about that? I mean, what are you thinking would be your next move?
Yeah, of course. My goal from 9 years ago was to play my hockey 10, 15 years of my hockey career, have 100 plus units, and retire and be having a Mai Tai on the beach in Florida, for the rest of my life.
Yes.
But that was me at 20, and then life slapped me in the face a little bit, 21, 22, 23. And you kind of figure out that, dreams don't always come true, but you just got to keep grinding. But as far as the future, I'd like to still stick to that goal, still work towards it, get upwards of 100 units, start to move more towards commercial. I like to have, maybe all my units in one building at one point, couple buildings, instead of running around all over the place.
Yeah.
But I like to set attainable goals. Obviously I dream big, but I'd like to potentially try to double my portfolio size every 2.5 to 3 years.
I love it. I think that's an attainable goal. I think that's one of the problems I have is, I set these goals, right? And I try to kind of work backwards, and then it's like, well, to get here, you got to do this, and sometimes this is not getting done to get to where you want to be. But I also, and Phil, I don't know if this is the same for you, but it's like one of those things where if you write it down, you don't hit it, it kind of brings you down a bit. It makes you, it hurts hurts your feelings a bit. And I'm trying to figure out, and this podcast is part of that, is figuring out what are people doing to, reach their goals. How do they look at it? Because listen, a lot of people are doing it every day, right? And I don't think we're different than anybody else, but I'm just, as I continue this journey, learning and talking to, high level people like yourself, is, that mindset of, hey, if it doesn't go your way, and rarely does it, it doesn't define who you are, is really what it is, right? It doesn't really define who you are. What are your thoughts on
I mean, you're not going to win. You can't win 100% of the time, is my opinion. You're going to, they always say you learn from your failures and you can't fear to fail, but it's scary at times to, set certain expectations where you expect that you can reach yourself, your own goals, and then you don't reach them. And then you start questioning yourself, probably. I know I do sometimes. Is this the right career path? What am I doing wrong? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? But like I said, that's why I was setting, a few years ago, I was setting goals that were unattainable and unrealistic. And you almost set yourself up for disappointment. So I and you don't want to sell yourself short, but I try to find that happy medium where you set a goal that's reachable. And then, if you exceed that goal, great. If you don't get to that goal, then that's when you go back and you set an attainable goal and you start analyzing, what did you do? What did I not do enough of? And I'm not 100% good at this. I can be way better at it. But as far as tracking those goals and learning new things and finding ways to better yourself, then I think you're always winning in the long run, even though you're not reaching those goals. I read something, 1%, you're 1% better if you're doing more than you did yesterday.
Damn.
Something.
I love that.
And it's hard to grasp too, because you might be doing something new and not seeing any results, and it's just like, this is redundant. What the hell? But it's all a grind. It's all a grind, no matter what you do. It's life.
Yeah,
it's not easy. And then if you fail, what do you do? You start over. You started a business, right, Marty? You started from nothing. You can go. I always say, I fail, I can go swing a hammer for a little bit, figure something else out, start new. I don't know.
I love it. And for people that can't only hear and can't see, I was really just going with my fist. I was just pumping because he was talking about the wins, and it's the little wins that build up to those life-changing accomplishments. And I think we need those little wins. But I think what we don't do, Phil, and I know, at least for me and maybe for you, I got to get better at this, is celebrating those little wins. Like, they're just so, you kind of just throw them to the wayside. You're like, yeah, I know I got that, but what I'm looking for is, yeah, I know I got, I know this happened, but what I wanted was, so we need to all get better at that.
Yeah. And I'm the same way too. I might be doing something small that's not your end goal or whatever. You don't get the deal you wanted, but everything you did to leading up to that deal that you're negotiating, or doing your due diligence, running numbers, you're learning, you're racking your brain, you're learning different, you're running analysis on different properties, different scenarios, different situations. And you might not get the house. The house might not make sense. The apartment building might not make sense to you at the moment, but you're seeing good and bad deals. You're still seeing stuff. But you're at the end of the day, the dollars might not be coming in, but you're still learning.
Well,
And that's something I don't really realize either. I'm the same way as you. I want that win. I want the big golden ticket at the end of the day. And if I don't get it, you suck, but it's not reality. And maybe I'm hard on myself. I don't know how you are, but definitely something probably everyone could get better at.
I agree. I'm very hard on myself because my thought process goes back to there's people that come to this country with nothing in their pocket and become, very successful multi-millionaires, like all those things, right? So I don't really have any excuses is my basic thought process for whenever I feel like I should have an excuse. I go, no, you don't have any, because other people have come from way worse and have done, maybe they've done more. I know I'm still in my journey. My journey is different than other people's. And I think what I did, Phil, and maybe you did too, is I would be competitive with other people. And that was never helpful looking back. And what I needed to be was competitive with myself and was just worried about me and making sure that I'm getting better personally day by day and not worried about anybody else's wins, because I haven't walked in their shoes. I don't know what they're doing, right? And so those are things that I repeatedly have to bury into my head, is that there is no competition. It's just me.
Right. And I mean, that's a good point you make. Even in today's day and age with social media, Instagram, perception isn't always reality with these types of medias and everything going on. You don't really know how well off somebody is. You don't know if somebody's taking a picture in a fake private jet or if they're actually in a private jet.
Right.
So you can't, like you said, you can't really compare your life to others, because then that's when you'll be stuck. And I mean, I do it sometimes. I have days where like, shit, look at this guy. What am I doing? Why isn't this me? But if you dwell, I mean, I do it still. It's a terrible habit, but if you just dwell and keep dwelling, you're going to be stuck in mud.
Agreed.
And it's good to talk about like this. I haven't really talked about out loud with somebody. This is why this podcast is pretty good. It's why I kind of wanted to do it, but you keep it into yourself. You don't really get it out there or bounce it off other people, but it's good to hear that other people are, maybe in the same situation that you are or have the same thoughts you are. Maybe it'll help people get past those thoughts. Who knows? But it's definitely a podcast, I think, that will help people, whatever topics you do, whoever you're talking to.
I appreciate that. I think this is why I'm doing it, is for my own therapeutic uses, my friend. And then it's also good to hear that I'm not alone. And I think that's the majority of people. I think the majority of people are struggling with these things here and there. And you can look at people and go, man, this person's got it all. And they're themselves struggling just like you. And so I think if we all realize that we're all just humans, just trying to figure it out and just trying to get better. But I think a part of this was, I know that people are struggling. I know that people have these thoughts. I know that there's people who want to do better and they're trying to figure out how. And I am on that journey with them. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, is to get little nuggets. And I mean, Jesus, you talk to a guy. When I first met you, I go, this guy played, this guy was a, professional hockey player, 10 years. This guy freaking, you think about it, you went to different countries and you played, you had, you've met so many people. You've had, you're obviously in a professional shape. This guy's tall and handsome. He's good looking. He's strong as an ox. I mean, got a lot of great things going for him, but he still has, just like me, where, hey, I'm not where I want to be. And I also think that's okay too. I also think, yeah, you shouldn't feel like you've reached it yet. Like I'm having a tough time, Phil, and tell me if you have this thought. People always go, hey, it's the process. Enjoy the process. Dude, sometimes the process is really tough.
Yes. Sometimes it's just like the process isn't ever going to end. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Because, sometimes I enjoy the process, but it's just like, what the hell? I don't know. I feel like that's a whole nother topic, but it's definitely challenging at times where you start even questioning it, like we said earlier, am I doing the right things? What needs to be changed? But you don't know until you talk to other people. You can't do it on your own. And I think that's one of my toughest battles. I think I can do everything on my own, but you really can't. You need to bounce ideas off people. You need people with different mindset than you, and you got to be able to be willing and able to change your mindset a little bit too.
Good point.
You can't be stubborn or stuck in your ways, or you won't grow. And that's something I've learned too. Just even jumping into the sales stuff, I've learned a lot. No sales background, nothing ever. But I'm trying to learn daily. I'm doing classes, taking courses, talking to people, going out for lunches, and it's all new. But I may not be doing great, but I'm doing more and better than what I did last year. So it's like those small wins that you said that you have to find some way to acknowledge them to get some kind of self-gratification.
I agree. Those small wins are necessary because they help build your confidence. And in this game, the more confidence you have, I think the bigger risks you're willing to take. And it's not just like business risks, but it's like risks of putting yourself out there. It's risks of, being humble, like saying that, hey, I was wrong. That can be very, very tough for people. It's a lot easier for me because I've been wrong so many times where it's like, no, I'm sure that might be me. That's my bad on that one. So
you got it. You got it. And you're better for that. And people respect you too, No one likes somebody who says, oh, that's your fault. That's your fault. Never takes any responsibility. And that's more of maybe, people getting past their ego, but no one's ever going to be right all the time. Unless you're so stuck in your ways, then that's on you. And I don't want to be that person.
No, and don't you trust the people that say they're wrong? That person now I trust more. If they just said, yeah, that was my fault. I'm wrong for that. And I know that's part of personal development is taking responsibility for the things that don't go right, but taking personal responsibility in your life when things don't go right, right? I mean, taking true personal responsibility. And that can be very tough at first, but I think it's also very, very freeing.
Yeah. And that's something I realized, that I didn't have at a young age, maybe being young, dumb and naive. I don't know, but definitely looking back now, I think to myself, yeah, you got to look in the mirror sometimes and take responsibility for yourself. Point the finger at yourself, because definitely a lot of things, decisions, choices you could have made a lot different, and to change the aspect of where you are now. but it is what it is. And you got to adapt. And like you said, personal development piece, if you realize that eventually, then you're growing as a person, and I think that's the biggest thing, is as long as you can see yourself growing in business and life, then that's probably the biggest part, the biggest win, in my opinion. And then everything else will fall in place.
Boom. I agree. This has been excellent. I want to be cognizant of Phil's time. He's a busy guy. He's got deals galore. And I know he's probably going to have to, bring a few of his buyers down off the ledge here. So I just want to say, Phil, thanks again for coming on, man. It was excellent talking to you. I believe that you are a huge help for people. So if you guys are ever thinking about, getting into real estate, and if you need help with, a buyer, seller, listing, Phil is the guy to trust. He obviously has a background of being a competitor and being someone who will fight for you, because I've seen him fight on the ice. I was watching some videos. It was awesome. And but anyways, Phil, thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate you.
Marty, thanks for your time. This was a pleasure. Like I said, it's good to chat to other people and similar mindsets, same situations, and just bounce things off each other. It's good to get it out instead of talking to yourself.
Likewise, brother. Likewise. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the Marty Grisani Show. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, leave us an honest rating and review. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow us for weekly episodes.